Hello and welcome to part 14 of the topic Basics of Accounting. In part 13, we understood the meaning of adjustments. We learned about the various kinds of adjustments that we are likely to come across. Also, we discussed a few adjusting entries. In this particular session, we are going to cover the remaining adjustments and the related adjusting entries. So we can call this as adjusting entries, the second part of that. So what are the topics that we are going to cover in this session? Basically, adjusting entries. Now, the list of adjustments that we have already covered is all marked in blue, whereas we are going to cover all these adjustments starting from prepaid expenses to interest on drawings in this particular session. So before we proceed, one very important point which I had already mentioned in the previous session, and that was all adjustments will be included in the books by passing adjusting entries. So if you have a trial balance item, the trial balance item will be recorded only once in the books because it has already gone through the books. So it requires a fulfillment of, double entry is done. So only one effect has to be given. Whereas for every adjustments, it has to go through the books. It has to fulfill double entry principle. That's why every adjustments will be given two effects. So let's understand the concept of prepaid expenses. So as the name suggests, prepaid, that means you have paid the expense before you have incurred. So expenses not incurred but still paid is known as prepaid expenses. Business has not incurred any expense, but the business has already paid. So that can be called as a prepaid expenses. Now, very, very important point. Our objective of preparing profit and loss account is to find our current year profit or current year loss. So when I say prepaid, that means I have paid relating to the next year. And the rule is simple. All last year's, all next year's items must be excluded. So if you want to find the correct profit or loss for the current year, item like prepaid expenses must be excluded because it relates to the next year. Until that period expires, prepaid expenses will remain as an asset in the balance sheet of the business. Why an asset? Because when the business incurs that expense, business need not pay because business has already paid it. Remember this. So as long as the period does not expire or the expense does not expire, such prepaid expenses will remain as an asset because business need not pay when the business really incurs it. Now, what is the adjusting entry for prepaid expenses? As we see over here, prepaid expense is an asset, and assets always show debit balance. So the journal entry for prepaid expense would be prepaid expenses account debited to concerned expenses account. Since prepaid expense is an asset, it will be debited to concerned expenses account. Now, once again, we go back to the question, can prepaid expenses be given in the trial balance? So we have been asking these questions for 4+1 concept earlier. This is, you can say, the sixth time that we are asking this question. Can prepaid expense be given in the trial balance? So the answer to the question is yes. But when prepaid expenses appears in the trial balance, what does that mean? The expenses which is given in the trial balance is already adjusted with prepaid expenses, meaning to say the concerned expenses given in the trial balance is after deducting prepaid expenses, meaning to say prepaid expenses have already been deducted from that concerned expense which is given to us in the trial balance. Now, what is the application of prepaid expenses? Depends whether prepaid expense is given in the trial balance or whether it is given as an adjustment. So we know very clearly, if prepaid expenses is given in the trial balance, there is only one effect, and that effect will be on the asset side of the balance sheet. But if prepaid expenses is given to us as an adjustment, you know very clearly every adjustment will be given two effects. And the first effect will be such prepaid expenses will be deducted from concerned expense on the debit side of profit and loss account. Whereas second effect would be, it will be shown as an asset on the asset side of the balance sheet. So this is the application of prepaid expenses if it is given in the trial balance and if it is given in the adjustments. So let's move to the next adjusting entry or the next adjustment, and that is income received in advance. So as the name suggests, income is received in advance. Means business has not earned the income, but the business has still received. So business has not earned, business has received. So such incomes are called as income received in advance. So when we say business has not earned, that means again it's an income relating to next year, but we have already received in the current year. So that's why these items, since it relates to next year, these are to be excluded to find the current year profit or current year losses. And it is a liability until the time period expires. Let's take a clear-cut example. Suppose I am the landlord. I have given one of my houses on rent, and there is a tenant. That tenant in the month of February, is paying me February, March, April, and May months rent. So he is paying me February and March months rent. February and March months rent is relating to current year. So when it is March 31st, when the period expires, that will become an expense, that will become an income for my business. Rent received will become an income. But the question is, what about rent of the month of April? What about the rent of the month of May, which we have already received? That will be treated as income received in advance. So first of all, rent for the month of April, rent for the month of May that the business receives is received in advance. It relates to the next year. Now the question is asked, why is it a liability? Suppose the tenant has already given us February and March months and April and May months rent. Suppose on March 15th, the tenant informs us that he has been transferred to another place. So he won't be continuing as a tenant in the month of April and in the month of May. So what we are supposed to do, what as a business we are supposed to do, we need to return that April and May months rent, because we had not earned, but we had received it. So for that particular reason, until the period expires, income received in advance will remain as a liability. If once the period expires, that liability next year will be converted into income. So, but since we are talking about the current year, income received in advance will be treated as a liability. Now, what is the adjusting entry? Simple. Income received in advance is a liability, and liability shows credit balance. So income received in advance account will be credited and concerned income will be debited. So this is the journal entry, adjusting entry for income received in advance. So how do you remember this? Income received in advance is a liability, and all liability shows credit balance. So income received in advance account will be credited and the concerned income will be debited. Understand this. Now let's moving further, whether income received in advance can be given in the trial balance. This is the question. So once again, the answer to this question is a yes. When income received in advance is given in the trial balance, it means the income which is given in the trial balance is after deducting income received in advance amount. So if income received in advance is given in the trial balance, then the concerned income given in the trial balance is after deducting income received in advance. Remember this. So concerned income is already adjusted. That means income received in advance is excluded and only current year income is shown in that income account. Now moving on, the application of income received in advance. So as usual, income received in advance may be given in the trial balance. If it is given in the trial balance, then we know there is only one effect. If given in the adjustments, two effects. Now, if income received in advance is given in the trial balance, only one effect, and that effect will be this income received in advance will appear on the liability side of the balance sheet. If income received in advance is given as an adjustment, every adjustment has two effects. So one effect will be on the credit side of profit and loss account, we are going to deduct such income received in advance from that concerned income. So deduct it from concerned income on the credit side of profit and loss account. And another effect will be as usual on the liability side of the balance sheet. So this is about the concept of income received in advance if given in the trial balance, if given as an adjustment. Now, one very, very important point that I would like to state. When I say credit side of profit and loss account, when I say debit side of profit and loss account for all the items that we have discussed, say starting from outstanding expenses, outstanding income, accrued income, prepaid expenses, income received in advance. So when I'm talking about these items, and when I say debit side and credit side of profit and loss account, we have to understand. When I say profit and loss account, it is not just profit and loss account. This profit and loss account includes trading account as well. If we go to the accounting process, from the trial balance, we prepare what is called as final accounts. And in final accounts, we mentioned income statement or profit and loss account. Remember that profit and loss account includes a trading account. When we are specifically studying about profit and loss account, we differentiate between trading and profit and loss account. But generally, when we look at income statement, we combine the concept of trading as well as profit and loss account into one, and we call it as profit and loss account. So this is the meaning of profit and loss account for these adjustments that we have understood so far. Let's move to the next adjustment, and that is bad debts. What is bad debts? Bad debts is a very common term that we use in the subject of accounts, or for that matter in the business. You sell goods on credit. Customer says he will pay after 1 month or 2 months. Large number of customers pay, but a few customers don't pay. We persevere with such customers. We say to it that we get our money back, but in vain. So debts which become irrecoverable, such debts are called as bad debts. So debts which are surely irrecoverable, the debtors have not paid. And usually, in business terminology, we say debts which are due for more than 6 months. We call such debts as bad debts. Even in case of a bank, you might have heard about the concept called NPA, that is non-performing asset. Bank giving a loan. See, we borrowing a loan is a liability for us, for our business. But bank is giving a loan. As far as giving a loan from bank's point of view, for the bank, loan is an asset. So when that asset doesn't recover the required amount or EMI, whatever installment the borrower had to pay, over a period of 6 months, banks treat such assets as non-performing assets. So in business, if I have to bring in, the concept is called as bad debts. Debts which are surely irrecoverable. Business is trying its level best, has tried, but business is not able to recover. So such debts are called as bad debts. Now, bad debt is a loss. So if I want to find the current year profit or loss of the business, bad debts has to be shown in the books of accounts. Remember this. So bad debt, as we have understood, it is a loss to the business. Now, we are very, very clear as to which debtor's debt is bad. Suppose we sold goods on credit to Akash, to Bharat, and to Chandan. Say Akash has paid, Chandan has paid. Say Bharat has not paid. And we try our level best to recover the debt from Bharat, but in vain. Or Bharat has disappeared from that town. So we cannot keep our books open until Bharat comes back. So we will have to close the books. We will have to close Bharat's account also. And that closing of Bharat's account, the balance that is available will be treated as bad debts. So debt which is not recovered from Bharat in this example becomes a bad debt, and it is a loss to the business. So bad debt is a loss, and we know very clearly which debtor's debt is bad. So the adjusting entry for bad debt would be bad debt is a loss, debit all expenses and losses. The entry will be bad debts account debited to debtor's personal account. In this example, it would be Bharat's account, because we know that Bharat's debt has become bad. So debtor's personal account, and debtor is an asset. When their debt becomes bad, asset value will decrease. So decrease in asset is always a credit. So remember this. So the adjusting entry for bad debts is bad debts account debited to debtor's personal account. Now, question is, will bad debt appear in the trial balance? Surely yes, you have had trial balance where bad debts was given in the trial balance. So there is no question of thinking loudly over here. The answer to this question is a clear yes. Now, when bad debts is given to you in the trial balance, what does it tell you? It tells us that this bad debt amount is already deducted from the debtor's amount. So if bad debts is given in the trial balance, then debtor's personal account, that is the amount, is after deducting bad debts amount. So in the debtor's list, whatever amount was due from Bharat is already deducted if bad debts is given to us in the trial balance. So as usual, let's understand the application of bad debts. Bad debts can be given to you in the trial balance. If given in the trial balance, only one effect. It is already deducted from debtors in the balance sheet. So only one effect, and that effect will be bad debts will be shown on the debit side of profit and loss account. And this is true profit and loss account, not trading account. Now, if it is given as an adjustment, we know two effects, fulfillment of double entry principle. So one effect would be you are going to record it on the debit side of profit and loss account. And second thing is you are going to deduct it from debtors, that is on the asset side of the balance sheet. So this is about the treatment of bad debts if given in the trial balance, if given as an adjustment. Next, adjustment. We are moving to something very, very important, and that is provision for bad and doubtful debts. A very important concept. See, in the books or sometimes in the discussion in the class, the teachers, based on their whims and fancies, use the term reserves. Sometimes they use the term provision. Say, call it as reserve for bad and doubtful debt. Sometimes it is called as provision for bad and doubtful debt. So the question is, which is the right word? The right word is a provision and not reserves. Remember, it is provision for bad and doubtful debts. Now, bad and doubtful, I'm combining that. From the total value of debtors, we exclude debts which are bad. Debts which are bad are surely irrecoverable. So the remaining value of the debt, let's take example, if 1 lakh is the value of debtors in the books, and in that, let's say 10,000 has become bad debt. So from 1 lakh, I exclude 10, I remain with 90,000. And this 90,000 includes two kinds of debts, doubtful debts and good debts. Good debts, surely it will be received. Doubtful may or may not, but business is not aware, business is not clear as to which debtor's debt is doubtful. A debtor is not going to come and tell a business that please record my debt are included in the list of doubtful debts. No. It is business is taking initiative by making a provision for bad and doubtful debts. And this provision for bad and doubtful debts is an outcome of the application of convention of conservatism. When we learned this concept, concepts and conventions in part 4, if I remember correctly, we had discussed convention of conservatism. The rule of convention of conservatism is provide for all possible losses, but never anticipate profits. So when we have debtors, business is making a provision, say out of 90,000 rupees, say 5%. 5% of 90,000 would work out to 4,500 rupees. 10% is 9,000, half of that is 4,500 rupees. Business may treat it as a doubtful debt that business may not receive. This is just a convention of conservatism. In future, all the debtors may pay. But if all the debtors don't pay, and suppose 3,000 worth bad debts happen, this provision will adjust that particular value. Remember this. For likely bad debts, but which debtor's debt is likely to become bad debt, we are not aware. So business is only making a provision. And this provision which will help the business in mitigating or setting off the bad debt that may be incurred in the next year. So the firm has to make a provision for likely bad debts which may happen during the course of the next year. That is, this is the outcome of the application of convention of conservatism. Important point, as I mentioned, provisions are always created out of profits. Provisions are always created out of profits. I mentioned earlier why we use the word provision and not reserves. When I say a portion of the profit transferred to reserves, we are not sure for what purpose it will be used, because it is just transferred to a general reserve. It is transferred to a reserve fund. But when I make a provision for doubtful debts, I know for what purpose I'm making a provision. When I say provision for taxation, I use the word provision. I don't say reserve for taxation because I know very clearly why am I providing. All provisions are made out of profits for a known liability. Reserves are something that are applicable for setting aside to meet an unknown liability, which business is not clear right now. So provision is the word that is used, and all provisions are created out of profits. Now, what is the journal entry? As I said, provisions are created out of profits means the profit will decrease. So when I say profit will decrease, profit and loss account belongs to nominal account. Debit all expenses and losses. And provisions will always show credit balance. So the journal entry, adjusting entry for provision for bad and doubtful debts would be profit and loss account debited to provision for bad and doubtful debts. Not just provision for bad debts, provision for bad and doubtful debts. So this is the adjusting entry that we have. Next, a very, very important question, and that is, can provision for bad debts be given in the trial balance? So once again, answer to the question is a yes. Why yes? Whenever you find provision given in the trial balance, understand this, whenever you find provision for bad and doubtful debts given in the trial balance, that represents old provision. That is provision created out of profits of the last year. Remember, this year's provision, which we are making, will become useful in the next year. So whenever we find provision for bad and doubtful debts given in the trial balance, it represents old provision for bad debts. That is provision created out of profits of the last year. Moving further, can provision for bad debts be given in the trial balance? Yes, we are already aware. It will be given in the trial balance. So let's look at the application directly. So if provision is given in the trial balance, it represents old provision. That is provision out of profits of the last year. Now, if provision for bad and doubtful debts is given as an adjustment, we will have two effects. And one effect will be, we will show it on the debit side of profit and loss account. We are going to add it to current year bad debts. And second effect is, we are going to deduct it from debtors on the asset side of the balance sheet. Remember, this deduction from debtors is only a book adjustment that we have to understand. Debtors value is not really deducted because we don't know which debtor's debt is bad and doubtful. We are only making a provision. So whenever we show it as a deduction from debtors in the balance sheet of this year, none of the individual debtors value will go down. It's only a book adjustment to fulfill double entry principle in the current year. Remember this. So this is about the concept of provision for bad and doubtful debts. Let's move to provision for discount on debtors. It is more so on par with provision for bad and doubtful debt, but this is more on the positive side. Debtors who are prompt in their payment, we say good debts, on good debts, debtors who continue to make their payment on time, business will make a provision for discount and allow discount to such debtors who are prompt in their payment, making their payment early. So the firm has to make a provision for discount on good debts. Remember this, to make a provision on good debts. And we know very clearly, provisions are always created out of profits of the current year. So it is very, very important point that we need to note. This is more on the positive side. Business wants to allow discount to its customers who are prompt in their payment. So on good debts, business will make a provision. So as usual, since we know that provisions are created out of profits, profits is going to decrease. So the adjusting entry for provision for discount on debtors is profit and loss account debited to provision for discount on debtors account. So this is the entry that we have, profit and loss account debited to provision for discount on debtors account. Now an important question that we ask, can it be given in the trial balance? Once again, the answer to the question is a yes. Why we say yes? Like provision for bad and doubtful debts, if in the trial balance there is provision for discount on debtors given, that means it represents old provision. Provision for discount on debtors created out of profits of the last year. and both provision for bad and doubtful debts and provision for discount on debtors appearing in trial balance will always show credit balance. So if provision for doubtful debt is given in the trial balance, then it represents old provision for discount on debtors and it will always show credit balance. So let's look at the application. So if given in the trial balance, only one effect, and that represents the old provision, that is provision created out of profits of last year. So if it is given as an adjustment, that means it relates to current year, it has to be given two effects, and one of the effect will be you are going to debit it to profit and loss account. You will record it on the debit side of profit and loss account, and if there is a discount allowed in the year, you are going to add provision for discount on debtors to such a discount allowed in the current year. Remember this. And second effect will be on the asset side of the balance sheet, you are going to deduct it from debtors. So this is about the treatment for provision for discount on debtors. So if given in trial balance, it represents old provision, that is provision created out of profits of last year. If it is given as an adjustment, then two effects, debit it to profit and loss account, and there, if there is discount allowed given during the year, add it to it. And second effect will be deduct from debtors on the asset side of the balance sheet. So that is about provision for discount on debtors. Now we are moving to something very, very interesting in the subject of accounts. What is it? Provision for discount on creditors. This concept actually is against the convention of conservatism. This concept is going against the convention of conservatism, meaning to say that business is anticipating profits. Remember this. Business is anticipating profits over here. Why? Whether we are going to get a discount, that the creditors will decide. To whom we are supposed to pay, they will decide. Business cannot decide. But when the business is making a provision, business is assuming that we are going to receive discount. Meaning to say, business is anticipating profits. Remember this. So actually this concept need not be studied. But since we have this in the subject, it's better to have an idea. So it is included over here. So the very concept of provision for discount on creditors goes against the convention of conservatism because the business is anticipating profits. Business is anticipating profits. So profit and loss account belongs to nominal account, credit all incomes and gains. So point to note, the journal entry, adjusting entry would be provision for discount on creditors account debited to profit and loss account. So you see, profit value is increasing because we are anticipating profits. So profit value is increasing. So this is about the concept of provision for discount on creditors. Let's understand whether it will be given in the trial balance. Again, the answer is yes. And whatever is given in the trial balance, that represents provision for discount on creditors created out of profits of the last year, that is previous year, and it will show debit balance. Provision for discount on creditors will show debit balance. Remember, provision for bad and doubtful debts, provision for discount on debtors, the earlier concept will show credit balance if it is given in the trial balance. But provision for discount on creditors will show debit balance. Remember this. Now, what is the application? So as usual, if it is given as an given in the trial balance, one effect, and that represents old provision that is created out of profits of last year. If given in the adjustment relating to current year, so two effects. One, you are going to record it on the credit side of profit and loss account and add it to discount received if it is available. And second effect would be you are going to deduct provision for discount on creditors from the creditor value on the liability side of the balance sheet. So let's understand this. If provision for discount on creditors is given, we are going to record it on the credit side of profit and loss account. That means you are going to add it to the discount received if it is available. Current year discount received, which is recorded on the credit side of profit and loss account. And second effect is on the liability side, we are going to deduct this provision from creditors. So this is the treatment for provision for discount on creditors. Let's move to the penultimate concept, and that is interest on capital. Basic point that we have to understand. Businessman is giving capital to the business. On that capital, business is supposed to give interest. business person is contributing capital to the business. On that capital, business or the firm is supposed to pay interest. So interest on capital is an expense to the firm because interest on capital has to be paid by the firm, whereas it's an income to the businessman. It is an income to the business person. We have to understand this basic point. Now, interest on capital usually is given in the adjustment. It will not be given in the trial balance usually. So it is usually given in the adjustment. And what is the journal entry? Interest on capital is an expense for the business, so debit it. Debit all expenses and losses. Interest on capital account debited to capital account. Point to note, this interest on capital will be added to businessman's capital. When we say businessman's capital will increase because it's an income to the businessman, whereas it's an expense to the firm. So interest on capital account is debited. So the adjusting entry for interest on capital will be interest on capital account debited to capital account. Now, application, it will always be given in the adjustment. So we don't ask a question whether it should appear in trial balance. So it will always appear as an adjustment only. So two effects over here. One, it's an expense for the business. So it will be debited to profit and loss account. And second, it will be added to capital on the liability side of the balance sheet. Businessman's capital is going to increase. So interest on capital will always be given as an adjustment. And two effects would be, it's an expense to the firm, so debited to profit and loss account. And whereas businessman's capital will increase, that is on the liability side of the balance sheet. Okay, let's move to the last adjustment, and that is interest on drawings. So let's go back to the concept. Businessman is withdrawing money from the business for his or her personal use. On that drawings, business person is supposed to give interest. Business person is supposed to give interest. So for the firm, for the business, interest on drawings is an income. So interest on drawings is an income to the business and an expense to the businessman. Very important point. It is an income to the firm, income to the business, and an expense to the businessman. And this interest on drawings, like interest on capital, will always be given in the adjustment. And the journal entry, interest on drawings is an income. Credit all incomes and gains. So interest on drawings account will be credited. And this interest on drawings will reduce the business person's capital. So capital account, which always shows credit balance, will now be debited. And the adjusting entry would be capital account debited to interest on drawings account. So this would be the adjusting entry. Capital account debited to interest on drawings account. And as it's given, it will always be given as an adjustment. So application given as an adjustment, we will be having two effects. One effect will be, it's an expense to the business person, income to the businessman. So interest on drawings will be recorded on the credit side of profit and loss account. Credit all incomes and gains. Another effect will be interest on drawings will reduce the businessman's capital. So it will be deducted from capital on the liability side of the balance sheet. So this is about the treatment for interest on drawings. It will always be given as an adjustment. So two effects. On the credit side of profit and loss account, that will be one effect. And you are going to deduct it from capital on the liability side of the balance sheet. So this is all for all the adjustments and the adjusting entries. So once again, I would like to thank you for your company. So you'd like to connect with me. If you'd like to collaborate with me, there is my email and my mobile number as well. And also, I give you an option to all my viewers. If there is any topic in the subject of accounts that you want me to make a video on, I think you can feel free and you can connect with me through my email. And definitely, I will be more than happy to prepare a video on the topic of your choice. So once again, thank you very much.